Welcome to My Sew Bliss. Today I'm so excited to be partnering with Baby Lock Sewing Machines and bringing you another sewing tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to make a clam pouch or a rounded zipper pouch. There's lots of different names for this. I think I've seen like half moon pouch. So basically it's just this rounded zipper pouch. And this one is a little bit bigger than the one we're going to be making today. It has a larger bottom, and I did make this rainbow pattern. I appliqued all this fabric together. So if you want to know more about that or see more pictures on how I did this, you can check out my blog. I'll put a link down below for it, and it has a little more instructions on how the rainbow part actually works. Today I'm just going to be showing you how to do this pouch. So once you have your fabric ready, then you can do the pouch, and it's just super cute. It opens up nice and big, and then we put these little side panels in to hold everything in there, and it's just super cute, really functional for so many different things. I think it would make like a perfect makeup bag, toiletry bag, or something for like school pencil pouch even. So lots of fun options with this, and I'm really excited. I'm going to be using my Baby Lock Brilliant, this machine right over here. If you've seen my other tutorials with this machine, I love this machine. This is the everyday sewing machine that I use. It's really great quality, sews really nicely, and has all those amazing features that you need. Even as a beginner sewer, I'd say this is a great investment, and it will last you a long time. And then if you're an intermediate sewer, it has all the capabilities that you will need to continue sewing amazing projects. So I'll leave a link down below for it. Make sure you go and check out the Baby Lock Brilliant. It's really one of my favorite machines I've ever used. So for the supplies that you're going to need for your pouch, you're first going to need your fabric, and I'm going to be using just some pieces that I have. This one obviously is kind of all messed up, but I'm going to show you how I'm going to piece this together. This is going to be our lining fabric. So that's just a piece of a fat quarter. And then this, I believe, is half a yard, which I'm not even going to need all of this, but it's this gorgeous canvas from Rifle Paper Company. Love them, everything they do. So I'm going to be using this is my outside fabric. This is my lining fabric. Both pieces, you need about a fat quarter worth, even a little less, actually, depending on the size you're making. And this one's pretty small, so you're not going to need that much fabric. And then I'm going to be using a piece of paper to show you how to make the pattern, scissors, and then all of your basic sewing supplies. And then our last thing that we're going to need is some stabilizer, and that's how we're going to get this nice shape. And I really like this one. It's called Soft and Stable. Again, I'll put a link down below. I've seen a lot of stuff like it at the big box stores, but I've just really like the quality and how durable and how well this holds up, this Soft and Stable. So I'll put a link down below. Again, really great stuff. I use it in all my bags, and I've made like fabric baskets that I've used it in, and it's still holding up really well, even with my kids playing with it all the time. One other thing that you're going to need is a zipper, and I got a sport zipper. It's 18 inches long. I like to get it a little longer than the bag is actually going to be. It just makes it a lot easier than getting the exact size. It makes it a lot easier to sew in. So that is one other thing you're going to need. So let's get started. I'm going to first show you how to make your pattern for your pouch. So the first thing that we're going to do to make our pattern is get our 8.5 by 11 inch piece of paper. I'm just using cardstock because I like making patterns on cardstock. And I'm going to go horizontally in the left corner and in the right corner. And I'm going to be drawing 2-inch squares. So I'm going to go, my ruler is 2.5 inches wide. So I'm just going up to 2. And then there's another 2 and drawing it as a square. And you can do, once you are comfortable, you can do whatever size pouch you want, but you do want these lines to be the same. So you want it to be a square
and you want this side to be the same as well. So I'll measure it up with 2 and then draw that. And then I'm going to go from this point. Well, first I'm going to measure to the middle. Let's do that first. So half of 11, we've got 5.5. So I'm just going to mark that halfway point. And then I'm going to go from that point to this point on either box. I can go to the left box or the right box, but I'm going to go over to this box, and it is about 5 7/8 long. So I'm going to go from there and staying at that middle spot, staying at 5 7/8 inch. I'm going to start moving my ruler and creating my arch. And this is the rounded part for the bag. So I'm just keeping it at 5 7/8 of an inch. And going all the way around. And then I should land right back at the corner of the box on the right side. And then I'll just go around and match up those dots or lines that I created. Now I'm going to cut it out. So now we have our pattern piece. So for my outside fabric, I like to save as much of the fabric as I can, not waste any pieces so that I can use it for other projects as well. So because the flowers are going this way vertically, I want to make sure that's how they are for my pattern. So I just folded it this way. Kind of look at your fabric and you can kind of decide what's going to look best and do it from there, because now I'm just going to line that up and I'm going to get my pattern weights. And here's my fold right here. I'm going to set these down. You can see I'm going right up against the selvage edge and then right up to my here to my other edge, so that way I'm not going to waste as much fabric. And I am going to cut this out. So here's my outside fabric, all cut and ready to go. So I'm just going to set that one off to the side, and now I'll show you how I'm going to do my lining piece. And like I said earlier, mine's going to be a little different. I'll show you how you can do this if you just want to use like these scrap pieces, because if I folded it here, it would cut off the bottom. There wouldn't be enough. So what I'm going to do is kind of go along here, along this edge, because even if I did it that way, I wouldn't have enough. Let's move that. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to cut it out, but I'm not cutting out on a fold. I'm actually going to cut out a little bit more, about 1/2 inch more, and create a seam right here. So on the inside, I'll just have an extra seam. Now, if you have a perfect fat quarter and you can cut it out on the fold just like this, that is awesome. Do that. You're just going to be having 2 that look just like this. This is just if you don't have enough fabric, that I wanted to show you how you can make it work with these scraps. So I'm going to lay this down. I'm going to just go right up to where I can leave this. There's my extra seam allowance, so I can sew these pieces together to create the piece that we need. Okay, so now that I have that cut out and set that one to the side, I really need to iron this fabric. That's probably what I'll do next, iron. But now I'm going to do the exact same thing over here, leaving a little bit of extra so I have that enough for that seam allowance to sew those together, and then I'll cut them out. So this I can cut on the fold because we don't want this bulky seam allowance. And if you can't fold it, or if that's too annoying to cut, it's too thick, just lay it like this, and then make sure you don't cut across here and you just flip it over. That's probably what I'll do, so it doesn't get too bulky and too hard to cut. Once you have all of your pieces cut out, let's go over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to put these two together and how I'm going to put these two together to get it ready for our zipper. So over my sewing machine, I am going to put these two pieces right sides together. And again, I only have it like this because I had the scrappy fabric. So don't worry if you're not doing this step, that's totally fine. So I'm going to put my presser foot down, and I'm sewing at about 1/2 inch and sewing those together. I'll sew and then do a back stitch on the beginning and the end. And cut those threads. Okay, and now that is going to be ready for us. I'm just going to take it over to my ironing board and iron this seam open, and then it'll be ready and treated just like if I had cut it out like this piece. So that is how I do my scrappy pieces. So I'll just have a seam on the inside of my bag. So now for this piece with our stabilizer or interfacing, whatever you want to call it behind it. This is called soft and stable, so that's usually what I call it. I'm just going to put those wrong sides together, and I'm going to do a basting stitch all the way around it, and that's just going to hold it in place while we do all the other stitching, and that way I don't have to worry about it moving around and it not being sitting together properly. So I think I am going to put a few pins in it just to make sure it stays there as we do our basting stitches. And basting stitches is just a long stitch. I go over to my length right over here, and I'm going to put mine up to 5, and then that's how you stitch all the way around. So it's really quick and simple, and again, it just holds those fabrics together until we do our other stitching. And I'm going to sew this about 1/4 inch. Once we have our pieces basted and this one's all ready to go, now we're going to start inserting our zipper. So we're just going to start with putting it right sides together across one of our rounded edges. So I have my pins ready. And like I said earlier, I just like to get a zipper that's a little bit longer so that way I don't have to match up the edges right now. I just let them hang over, and it just makes it a lot easier. So for this first part, I'm just going to have the top and the bottom have a little bit hanging off, and I'll just start over here at the edge, and I'm putting my zipper down so it's right sides together with my front lining. And then before I even pin, I'll take my lining piece and I'm going to put it over the top so it's right sides together with our outside piece, and I'm going to pin that in place. So it's going to be all of our layers. So we have our lining piece, our zipper, our front fabric, and then there's the stabilizer, just like that. And then I'm going to ease it in and just go all the way around, lining this up. Once I have that pinned, I'm going to take it over to my sewing machine and get ready to sew that together. Over at my sewing machine, the first thing that I'm going to do is change out my presser foot. So I really love that on the Baby Lock Brilliant, your feet are stored right in this little compartment. So my foot I is what I need. That's my zipper foot. So I just push this button on the back and I take this one off. It has its own little compartment so that it doesn't get lost. And then I can place this on. And that just will pop on like so. And you can pick either the left or the right side. For now, I'm going to have it on the left side because our zipper is going to be on the left side. So it just makes it easier that way. And now we're ready to sew. Make sure that you come over here and you do change your stitch length back to 2.5. Because we just want to do it. Unless you're really nervous, you can start by doing a basting stitch. And that way you can really make sure it's going in right, and that's totally fine. So now I'm just going to go through my layers and going right next to the zipper teeth. I'm just going to sew all this together. Okay, so now that I have it sewn, it's kind of pulling a little bit, and that's okay, because now we're going to take some scissors and we're just going to cut some notches in that, and that will make it lay a lot nicer and a lot less bulky. And you want to make sure you're going to the stitching but not through the stitching. And then once you have your notches cut into it, we'll just flip that out. You can see how it's going to lay. And we just want to make sure that the zipper is going the right way. So that's right, it's going to go with the top fabric, going the right way. It's always good to check and make sure your zipper still works. Before we go and do the other side, one thing that I like to do is top stitch this edge down, and that's just going to create it so that it lays nice all the time, and you don't have to worry about it getting caught in the zipper later on, in case this, especially the inside, but in case it comes up and gets stuck in there. We don't want that to happen, so we're going to go and top stitch right around the edge. So let me show you that. So to do my top stitching, I'm going to do it on my right side or my outside fabric. So I'm actually going to move my zipper foot to the other side, so that way I can get really close to that edge, because I'm just going to be going right along here. And then I just want to make sure that that lining is pulled tight so that it doesn't create any bunching or laying weird while I'm sewing. And then I can start sewing. Do a little back stitch. And I'm just going close to the edge, about 1/8 of an inch away. And every once in a while, I'll just give that lining a tug. To stitch on the other side of the zipper, it might get a little confusing, but just remember that the zipper needs to be right sides together with your outside fabric. So I'm going to keep mine zipped for now, and I'm going to pull it over so it's right sides together. I'm going to line up, make sure this is lined up so that way the zipper lines up. And if you want to, you can pin that in place. I'm not pinning the lining quite yet. So if I pin that, and then I'll bring the lining around and pin that on top of the zipper. And that's how we're going to do it all the way around. And if you need to, once that's pinned, then you can unzip the zipper and it'll make it a lot easier. Okay, so a few things when you're doing this. Make sure if you do open your zipper that your zipper doesn't flip at any point, that it's always laying the right way, and it doesn't get twisted, because that would be really annoying if it was twisted and you had to take it all out. So I have my zipper on the left side again, and I am just going to do the exact same thing and just go slow. Make sure you're going through all your layers and nothing shifts. And I'll back stitch, and make sure you're not hitting the coils either of your zipper. You want to make sure you can still use your zipper. Before we flip it right sides out and get that all figured out, I'm going to clip around it again. Make sure you don't cut through your seam. Then once I have that trimmed, I'm just going to flip it so that I'm taking the lining and putting it on the inside. Flip that zipper out. Make sure everything's lining up good. I can zip it. And it's looking so cute. This is where you can kind of see the shape start to take place. And I'm getting like giddy over this because it's just so cute. So now we're going to do that top stitching that we did on the other side just to hold that in place. And I don't think I said this before, but if you have like a lighter fabric, especially just like a cotton fabric like this on both sides, it might be really helpful to iron that in place. Don't melt your coils. Just go right up next to the coils, not on top of them because you don't want to melt them. And that'll really hold it in place. With this canvas like fabric, it's laying a lot nicer. On this one, it was really bulky and kind of wonky. So ironing it was a huge help. But once you have done that, then we'll go top stitch around again. So we're going to put a pause on the bag part for now. And if you want to make this little tab right here, we're going to cut the fabric out for that. And one other piece, this fabric right here, I like this because it puts like a wall, so that if you have a lot of stuff in here and it opens up like this, that it's not going to be like falling out the sides. If you don't want that, just make these pieces right here smaller, but we'll do one for each side. I think on this bag, because it's such a small bag, I'll probably just do small pieces to cover that stitching. So it's like a little binding that we're going to be doing. So I'll show you how to cut those out and what to do. So we're going to cut out that piece and then those two pieces right now. So the really nice thing about this little tab piece is really you can make it whatever size you want. You could do a whole one to cover this whole thing. You could do a whole wristlet. I just like this cute little dingly one. So I have this extra piece of fabric that I'm just going to cut out from that. But for this piece, it was about 2 by 3 inch piece, a 2 by 4 inch piece, so it's going to be a little longer. So I'm going to cut this piece to be 4 inches long, and 3 inches, yeah, we'll do 3 inches wide, and that way it'll cover the whole length of my piece. So now let's take this one over to the ironing board real quick. I'm going to fold the edges in, the long edges in together, and iron that, and then I'm going to flip it so that all the raw edges are in and iron that. Now over at my sewing machine, I'm just going to do a quick top stitch, hold it in place, hold those raw edges. But first I need to change out my presser foot because that was my zipper foot. So I'm just going to put that back where it goes, doesn't get lost, and take out my regular presser foot, which I like to use J. I like that clear inside. So now I'm just going to do right along that opening. Oh, not even the right one. There we go. Right along that opening, I'm just going to straight stitch all the way down. So I'm going to set these extra pieces that we cut out off to the side. So now we can continue with our bag with this little tab piece that we just cut out. And we're going to start sewing this edge down. So we're going to flip it so the wrong sides are out, or with this bag, it's the lining side out. And now we're going to take it, you can kind of fold it like a clam, just like that. And we're going to lay this flat so that the zipper, and this actually doesn't have a seam unless you did it the way I did, but we're going to just press it so that the middle lines up with the zipper. And this is going to line up so that we can just stitch straight across right here. So I'm actually going to pin this to make sure my lining is pulled over enough on this side. Make sure it just stays in place the way it's supposed to. So it's just laying flat, and I can zip this up more just in case so it doesn't get in my way. But one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my raw edges and my tab piece in and stick those right in as well, right in line with the zipper. And if you have it, a seam allowance, but if not, just the middle of the bag. And I can pin that in place as well. That's a lot of layers. So maybe just to the top layer, just like that. And now I'm going to go over and stitch this down right here. So for this step, it's important that you go slow because you have so many layers, and especially when you're going over the zipper tape, that's really important. So I'm just going to start stitching. I'm just lining up my lining edge and all this raw edge right here with my presser foot. I am going to back stitch and then just slowly work my way down. And once I get to the zipper teeth, I'm going to slowly do it over. And if you need to, sometimes it's nice to not even use your foot pedal, but just use your hand wheel and just do it yourself. And that way the needle will kind of slide over, hopefully, let's see, slide over into place where it can go without breaking. So right there, it probably would have broken if I hadn't done it that way because it was such a tough place. And luckily I did it that way. And I just want to make sure I'm getting all of my pieces lined up. So I'm going to go a little bit farther in because it seems like mine's a little ways back. I'm going to back stitch at the end really good and then cut my threads. Okay, and now I'm just going to take some scissors and line this up. So just cut that off, cut my zipper tape off. And there I have that edge. And we're going to cover that up with that fabric that we just cut out. Now to do the other side, we're going to do the exact same thing, but we don't want this to be zipped up all the way, because if it is and we sew it, then we won't be able to get back into the bag without unstitching or taking stitches out of something. We're going to leave this open just a little bit like that. And again, we're just taking our pieces and flattening them. And I'm going to line up my zipper tape as close as possible, even if I need to like push that tape together, kind of like that, almost so like they're overlapping like they were together, and that's going to create a better edge for us. So once I have it placed how I want, make sure that zipper is lined up with the center. And now I'm going to pin that in place through all my layers. And I didn't create a tab for this side. If you want to, you totally can. Just follow those exact steps and then slide it in before you sew it. Okay, so once I have that pinned in place, I'm gonna look at it one more time. Okay, now I'm ready to go sew that just like I did this side, and making sure I go slow over my zipper tape. Once I have that sewn into place, I'm gonna cut off this extra. Okay, and then I can turn it right sides out just to see how it looks. You can unzip it a little more before we really finish it off. If you want, you can be finished right there. I just really like to finish off the bag all the way and make it so all those raw edges are gone. So it's looking super cute. I'm really excited about this bag. Got a few threads I need to cut off. But now we are going to prepare these pieces right here to be sewn in. So for our first step with these, I'm just going to lay them right sides together in half, and I'm going to go sew down the shorter ends on either side and then leave this open right here. So I'm going to do that to both pieces. Once those pieces are sewn, I'm going to take my scissors and just trim that little corner. That one kind of got a little wonky. And then flip it right sides out. And I'm going to go press it really quick, just so it lays really flat and looks nice. Once I have that piece ironed, I'm then going to take it and line it up with the raw edges. So I'm on the inside of the bag. And I'm just going to pin it to this raw edge. All the edges are lined up, and then I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine and stitch it down. I'm just going to line mine up with the edge of my presser foot and start stitching across, back stitching. And again, like when we went over the zipper before, you just go slow. If you need to, use your hand wheel. That always makes it a little bit safer and less likely to break a needle. But this machine handles it really well with all these layers of fabric. So I've been very impressed with that. So once I'm over it, I just continue sewing, lining it up with the edge of the presser foot. And then I'll back stitch at the end. Okay, and then I'll just show you right here that the next thing I do is I just fold it over. Got a few threads I need to trim, but I'll just fold it over like this, and then I go and stitch this down. And that's just going to cover all of this mess and all that raw edge, and just make sure that the inside of our bag is really nice and clean. So I can even just tuck that in there and pin it in place. Maybe. Again, it's a lot of layers, I know, but if you just pull that tight, and it'll look so nice. So much better than staring at the raw edge every time you open the bag. Okay, so once that is sewn on, it just looks so much better. I'm going to trim my extra threads that are just hanging around, and then I'm going to go and do the exact same thing on the other side.
Now, once you are done with those inside edges, you can turn your bag right side out, poke out those corners, and you are all done. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Make sure to check out those links I shared down below. You can check out the Baby Lock Brilliant. And if you have any questions, make sure to leave them down below as well. And thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye.